Welcome back, Haunted Gamer Pony here, guys. Sorry about that. I had to redo the video again. I'm sorry. I just don't have the proper systems and stuff and computers to work with this. So I had to use my phone. So other than that, let's continue where we left off in Flicker read by Forrest McGilvray, and I think that's actually hold on one second. And the story is written by Xeno Pony. I'm sorry. I was trying to see it. I couldn't see it very well. Anyway, and congratulations again for 403 subscribers. I do apologize. I'm stuttering because I still have a little bit of a Tootsie Roll in my mouth. But anyway, let's continue in the story of Flicker.
Did reluctantly, before tentatively trotting over to Twilight's side. Twilight nodded before slowly making her way inside, the light of her horn chasing away the shadows like swarms of cockroaches. Starlight's own magic.
And I do apologize, I forgot to mention that I have a light. The last few videos was just a little too dark. I wasn't getting enough light, so now I brought a little red light in here, a little colored light, so that way it makes it a little spooky. And also, I forgot to mention again, since I have to redo this, I want to mention Darkfire Pwn 3. Thank you so much for the comment, and also congratulations one more time again to Forrest McGilvray for the 403 subscribers. It used to be like 300, but now it's up there. Now I'm here sitting here making a reaction video of it eating Tootsie Rolls.
It added to the illumination as yet more rows of smashed up cargo passed by. The whole place looked like it had been thrown into a blender. Heavy-looking boxes had been thrown about like simple toys. The metal frame of the whole ship had been pulled and twisted like hot taffy. Rusted tools were sporadically scattered across the floor. A small channel of water had pooled right in the ship's base, and yet more trickled down from the sagging holes in the roof. Yet, there were some things that looked out of place, even in the midst of the chaos. Sharp blades thrown into the walls as if by hooves or magic. Splatters of dried gray dust spread across the wall where they did so, as if the wood itself had been bleeding. There were more deep scars in the walls further down, as if it had been frantically torn away. Stranger still were the scorch marks, far too small to have come from the explosive force of magical powder. Stopping beside one particularly large charred stain, Twilight prodded a hoof at the blackened wood, curiously.
This
doesn't make any sense. It's like they tried to burn their own ship or something.
Well,
She surmised in confusion.
So I guess.
Looking to the opposite side of the room, Starlight noticed a strange cylindrical tube made from what appeared to be some form of translucent crystal. It almost looked like diamond. Yet, the idea was betrayed by the fact it had been shattered like no more than frail glass. Inside was yet more of the dried gray substance. It almost looked as if the stuff had once been alive, only to wilt away to dust like a plant without sufficient water. Sunken within it were several shards of strange, glossy black material. Cocking her head, Starlight looked to see two more identical cylinders on either side of the first, and several more scattered around the place, all of them utterly shattered. She took a cautious step closer, and then felt something shift under her hooves. Clenching her jaw and closing her eyes at the initial rush of surprise, she looked down and shifted her hoof. Amidst the glistening shards of crystal water and mud, she could make out the broken form of some kind of rock. Its surface was a cold blue, almost frosty looking, and marked by glowing ruin.
Well, it's definitely not fucking ice cream.
Did you find anything? Came the sudden voice of Twilight, making Starlight almost shoot to the ceiling. Catching her breath and collecting herself, the pink unicorn shook her head as she turned back to her mentor. No, just some weird jars, she responded, pointing a hoof towards her peculiar discovery.
And some
Twilight
monsters.
moved over and tapped one of the crystalline objects gently,
later.
before peering down at the strange dust and fragments inside. I've never seen anything like this. I've heard of ponies that can manipulate crystal, but they're all the way in the Crystal Empire, Twilight observed, then levitated out one of the jagged fragments. As for this stuff, before she could elaborate further, her words were cut off as something shifted above. Both ponies jumped as the sound of something shattered along the length of the ship, shaking dust free and causing the water to shiver. Both Twilight and Star...
Nope. It's time to go. We gotta go. The big sign to leave.
Twilight looked at each other nervously before the former set down the black fragment and moved towards a set of...
Real quick. We all gotta... I wish we could just go back to Ponyville. Have a hay sandwich. Probably would taste like crap. I don't know about me. I don't think I'd have a hay sandwich. They probably would, but... Probably have something like peanut butter and jelly, but what the hell? Why are they in there? Why? Who cares if the ships were illegal?
Stairs opposite from the bridge through which they entered. It was clear that Twilight was re-evaluating her decision to go any further. Her own fear not too well hidden anymore. Yet, after a few long moments of assuring herself that there was nothing she couldn't handle in here, not to mention no more scattering sounds from above, Twilight began to move cautiously upwards. Come on, let's just get to the cabin and get out of here. This place is pretty creepy, she finally confessed as she crept up the stairs. Glancing back to the relative safety behind them, Starlight reluctantly followed her mentor up the dirty stairs and onto the ship's second floor. There, they found rows of tattered beds and yet more signs of carnage. The heavy furniture has been thrown around like leaves in a storm, and even the main support pillars of the ship were bent and buckled like mere twigs. Hammocks were twisted and tables uplifted, food and drinks still visible as it rotted away in the waterlogged air. Strange. You must have still been eating when all this happened, Twilight observed, as her magic revealed the chaotic remnants.
What did that?
Even so, there was still absolutely no sign of any crew, or any pony else for that matter. Not even, dare either of them say, any bones or bodies. Whatever had happened must have happened pretty fast, Starlight added, eyes passing along the rotting walls, only to make out several large scars.
Whatever happened.
They were almost like claw marks, yet bore a ferocity that betrayed their modest size. Many more of the marks didn't look like claws at all, but instead like some kind of lash or whip that had flayed the wood like it were no more than soft hide. Neither of them took too long to think about the eerie scene before them. Twilight slowly crept up another set of stairs. Starlight followed, and allowed the darkness to reclaim its former hold over the ship's silent interior. Yet one strange image was soon replaced by another, as both mares noticed that this set of stairs felt almost overgrown. It was strange, to say the least, especially considering the fact that the forest had only just begun to regrow over the wreckage from the outside. Stranger still, it didn't feel like any kind of normal vegetation. It was weak and gritty, crumbling like dust under the weight of their hooves. It covered the tight halls, making them look like they were encased by an ever-growing spiderweb of thin vines. A chill filled the moist air, sending a shiver down the spines of both mares.
That sounds like a lot of not so good.
The more the dark veins seemed to have grown until they almost consumed the whole wall. Then, the sight of Twilight paused in the opening ahead stole Starlight's attention. Creeping up on her mentor's side, she peered into the room, and, at the sight, it wasn't hard to guess what had stopped Twilight in her tracks. Through a stained set of shattered glass windows at the rear of the room, a weak beam of sunlight illuminated the captain's chamber. A desk sat in the center, with a chair at its far side. So too did many more cabinets stand at either side of the cabin, as well as desks and a small bed. A door in the wall beside the stairs seemed to lead out onto the ship's now shattered decks. Yet it was sealed by a great many locks. That was not what was so unsettling, however. What was strange was the fact that the room was almost completely covered with a thick layer of fine gray vines. So much so, it was as if the whole thing had fused together. Just like in the crystal
Ugh.
vases, the plant substance itself had become gray and withered, crumbling into dust even at the smallest disturbance. What in Equestria happened here? Twilight finally asked, speaking the words on both ponies' lips. The alicorn moved over to the desk and around to the chair behind it.
Gotta
Then
go
she
fast.
paused with a gasp and raised a hoof to her muzzle.
Fast go, gotta.
Starlight was quick to join her. Then she froze in a similarly choked manner as she saw what lay in the chair. A frail pony skeleton. Its bones, blackened and withered, was curled up as if they'd died in great pain. Yet all of this was almost indistinguishable from the large mass of now dead vines that encased them, almost like shriveled remnants of a fly caught in a spider's web. This must be the captain, Twilight surmised, recovering from her shock. Must have died in the crash, or something. Starlight's eyes passed over what remained of the withered body with both curiosity and cold dread.
Definitely it wasn't a monster. Not definitely, no.
They just hated to talk about it.
Couldn't have been.
This felt different, however. There was far too much mystery behind what may have happened to result in a demise like this. What about the rest of the crew? Starlight mumbled, her eyes still fixed on the long dead body. Twilight didn't respond. Instead, she used her magic to yank one of the desk drawers free of the withered substance. Inside were several tattered notes, a scorched red journal, and folded parchment, almost untouched by the substance crawling all over the walls.
Oh no. You know what? I think, I swear to God, if Pinkie Pie would, like, you know, all Pinkie Pie would have had to do was to make a joke, and I swear, just whatever they tripped over, they wouldn't have paid no mind. Pinkie would have made a joke, they would have just moved on. But I don't think Pinkie Pie's with them. I forgot about that. I don't think Pinkie Pie's with them.
Twilight swiftly set to reading all she could. But then she glanced up at Starlight.
They just should have left it alone.
Her name was Raven, she stated, looking at the shriveled bones with a hint of sad respect before glancing back to the notes. Starlight took another glance around the room, that cold chill still hanging in the otherwise humid summer air. Her wandering eyes were drawn to the small bed and dresser. A regal portrait of a jet-black Pegasus mare with a shimmering coat just sat above them on the wall, mostly covered by the vines. Just like Twilight had said, there was a small plaque identifying her as Captain Midnight Raven. That's weird. All the pages have been burned out of here, Twilight stated in confusion as she pulled out several more charred pieces of parchment. All records of where they were going, where they came from, their cargo, it's just gone. Must have been something they didn't want any pony out.
Yeah, that's another sign to not be there. Like, you see, if you ever find that shit, say you have a fucking, I don't know, a pirate ship crash into your house, I think it's best to leave it the hell alone. Just leave it alone. Don't mess with it. Keep moving on. I don't know what to say about that. That shit.
To know about.
That's unfortunate.
Starlight offered her perplexed mentor wearily.
Unfortunate.
Twilight looked over to respond, but then something abruptly stole her attention. A scream. Both ponies' heads shot up, their ears standing at attention. It had come from outside.
Who's that?
Right where the others have been waiting, and it sounded unnervingly familiar. Without a second thought, the pair rushed out of the room and galloped back down the stairs as fast as their hooves would carry them. Water splashed under the sound of their escape, and broken boxes were shoved aside. The sound of a struggle emanated from ahead, audible over the sound of the running mare's breath as they both galloped out into the wreckage-strewn area outside of the ship and slid to a halt in the mud. "Goodness! Fluttershy, dear, I know how you love your animals, but this?" Rarity stated as both Twilight and Starlight came to a rushed stop. "Rarity, what's wrong? We heard you scream."
Okay, that's a good place to stop it for right now. We were on 4017 last, so that is also the end of part 4 for chapter 1. So we will try to get right back to you. And big shout out again to Darkfire Pwn 3 and Forrest McGilvray, of course, for his 403 subscribers. And Darkfire Pwn 3, I'm sorry, I do apologize for the name. Keep leaving comments. I appreciate it. Thank you. And also, the story was written by Xenopony. I forgot to mention that. But stay tuned.